Well, welcome back everyone. Hillbilly here with part 2 of the simple leather tote. Hopefully you got to see the first part. It was where we turned around and laid it out, our design or our pattern on a piece of scrap paper, took measurements and stuff, and then we all put it into a program. Using the program to turn around and print out our pattern and how we cut it, taped it, all that good stuff. So if you didn't see it, go check it out. And this one, we're going to go ahead and get this laid out on this leather. We'll get it cut and we'll get started making it. Now that we've got our leather rolled out, one of the first and probably one of the most important things you want to do is, I know when we select our leather at a leather place, we always look it over pretty good. But I know I buy 2-3 rolls of different things, and I bring them home. I stick them in the area where I put my leather in rolls, and then later I come back to them. I don't always remember what the imperfections were, or the reason, you know, that I bought it. Well, anyways, here this is. I'm not sure. It's kind of a light brown, dark tan. It's got a small pebble grain in it. But again, like I was saying, very important. Inspect your leather. I've got a pinhole here. I've got some imperfections here. I don't know if you can really see it, but I've circled them. And that's a good thing to do. I've got this pin I've picked up from Tandy that works really well kind of on this stuff. It doesn't really draw. Here's another one. See, and even on some veg tan leather, you'll get some insect bites, scars from barbed wire fence, all sorts of things, branding, and holes like that. That's probably what these are actually are, is possibly maybe barbed wire. Now that we've got it laid out, I've got it on my little cutting board here. Bring our pattern back into view here. This is the main body of our leather tote that we want. Of course, we want to make sure we get the most out of our leather. So with those marks already circled, and I know where they're at, I'll lay it down here. Now, I don't know if you can see how this is laid out, but up here across the top of this leather is the back of the cow. This would be the belly. I don't know if this was the head or that was a tail, vice versa. But lengthwise is where you're going to get your most of your strength. So we want strength this way in our bag. So that's another little tip that is good to concentrate on if you've got that amount of leather that you got the ability to lay it out like that. Sometimes, you know, in some cases it's not really that crucial. It's not really a belt or a strap of some sort. I'm going to get started. Go ahead and mark this out. I'm going to make some corners where I can come back and use a straight edge. Now this stuff wipes off. On this kind of leather, the coat seems to be a little bit shiny, so just a damp cloth should remove it from the surface. Now if it's a material that absorbs ink or different things of that sort, you're going to want to maybe lay your hide over on the other side and mark it from the back. That way the marks don't show up and on the front, the part of the leather that it's going to be seen. I could have actually taped this down just to make sure this stuff doesn't move like it is over here a little bit. So, good little lesson. Make sure your leather or your pattern doesn't move around on you. And this is the tote, so I am going to cut these. Oh, let's get back over there. I am going to do these little cutouts on both sides because all this is going to be as a tote. See, now I've only got the one side cut out, so I'll move this pattern just like that because this is for another type of project with this same pattern. So I will come right up here. Okay, somewhere right about there. Okay. Now you'll see we've got all our little corners there. Move this over here. I'm going to use a rotary knife to cut it. Now these insides, I won't use a rotary knife. I'll use a different style knife because I want to do those little holes in the corners here where it's going to fold. So we'll start right out here. And make sure you're careful to not cut over into some good parts of the leather. And also make sure that you hold your straight edge well. I don't know how many times, and I'm going along not paying very much attention to it, and the next thing I know, boy, the straight edge moved. Oh no. But anyways, another little thing to continue to, to watch also, which I did a couple times, this thing. Super sharp. And sometimes, just like you'd seen, I laid this down to reposition my straight edge, and sure enough, I set it down, kind of dropped it like that, not realizing I'd actually had cut or had marked, scarred my leather. So be very careful. Hope my head isn't just in the way of everything here. Okay, got that. That does the big stuff. Let's see what I got left here. Let's separate this. Get another knife here. There's two here, be real fine. Got that cut. And there we go. Blow the rest of this up and get it out of our way for the time being. I've been thinking a little bit. I know I told you The handles, I was gonna possibly do those out of veg tan. I'm not quite sure yet, but I think I'm gonna do a mid project change. I'm gonna lay this like that. I think I might use some hair on cowhide. Stuff like this for some of my binding instead of this other thin leather. I don't know. My wife kind of suggested it. She thinks it would look good, so I think we're going to do it. Okay, we're going to cut both of these cutouts at the same time. And I'm using what they call a head knife. Kind of awkward to use when you first start using them. But once you use one, you'd realize that they're pretty handy. Those cut. Let's go. Now you don't necessarily need a head knife. Also, a lot of people are like, hey, what kind of knife is that? And leather people, leather workers that do it all the time, like using them. Be real careful with them. They can be awkward and also dangerous. I just kind of put some pressure on it. Put the corner of it right here, right down into where I want. And then I roll it right up against that straight edge. Now here, I'm going to go over to a point, switch hands, and we'll come from this corner. We don't want to overcut over into the corners. This is going to get sewn, so it doesn't need to be exactly perfect, but you want to get it close, because you're going to have like about a 1/2 inch seam allowance where we're going to sew all this. So okay, I don't know if you can tell, but that's pretty thin stuff. Alright, now I've got a hole punch. You don't necessarily need to have a rotary punch. There's individual hole punches that are also, but I do kind of recommend doing these little punches in the corner here. I probably could have did it before I had actually made my cuts, and then cut to the corner. It's just a little hole. Some guys do it, some guys don't. But it's not a bad thing to get used to. Alright, Let's see if I got our little rag here. See the marks? They'll come off. This is not even a damp cloth. If you wet it and make it damp, it works a lot better. Well, I folded this good side to good side, as you can see. I used some of these clips to hold it together. I don't really like using stick pins, of course, in leather due to the fact that once you put a hole in it with a stick pin, it's done. It'll always have that hole there. There's no, it's not like cloth. It's not that forgiving. Anyways, here on my sewing machine, I'm going to, you'll see I marked it and then kind of scribed it, so I've got just a scratch kind of in the leather. And we're going to stitch down both sides. So let's get started doing that. Now make sure that you put your I'm going to start forward a little bit, and then I'm going to go backwards just a touch so that I can do a lock stitch. Oh. And just kind of follow it right on up the side here where you've got the scribe. It's about a 1/2 inch seam allowance is what I've got. And it looks like my leather's walking a little bit. I don't think it's going to be too drastic here. I'm using a black thread. Okay, we're going to take it around to the other side here. Just got to pay attention that it doesn't move around too much after you've set those clamps. The clutch in this thing's kind of fast. I can get it down slow, but whenever I first start it off, it'll go pretty good. Back stitch for a lock. Okay, we're going to come along, trim off our little tails here. Had a bigger block stitch on that than what I really needed. Take our clamps off. These are really handy. The only thing is there's occasional times that you might need something to be held that's like a veg tan or something, and sometimes if these little jawls on these little paper clips or whatever you want to call them, if they're on something that's going to be that you don't want to mark, be real careful because they do sometimes make little marks. But it being on the back side of this, it's not a real big issue. Now as you can see, we've got both sides. When we go inside, you'll see that that'll fold over nice. But what we need to do now and it's kind of an awkward. But we want to try to do our best here. We're laying this down. I don't know if you can see it. I was hoping that you'd be able to see it. Now we're going to do a stitch right across that. So take your time. And this stitch we're going to want to, you know, maybe about 1/4 inch if we can. And make sure that you do the lock stitch, of course. You're going to want to fold that other piece that's underneath there. Now, positioning in the machine is probably the hardest part. Whoop. Love the smell of leather. Scissors here not going all that well. About time for another set. As you can see, I did it a real close seam here. Now if I wanted to, I could actually do another one just on the inside, but you know what we'll do? I'll wait till I do the other side, and I'll turn it inside out, and I'll see how it looks. Let's see, here on the other side, the same thing. I want to pull this. And what way did I fold? To the back. Or to my back, the opposite way of me. Just takes a little bit to manipulate your... And we'll lay that down the same way as we did there. That's the big deal, is getting this to lay right. You know, I'm being all fumble fingers as normal. Let me work it here. It's not normally this hard. Just be patient with it, I believe, is the key. I don't like how it looks there. Okay. Those ends are kind of quick to sew up. Here again, we're going to cut off our little tails. Alright. Let's take... This is what we got. Now let's take a moment, grab it from the middle, or actually from one of the sides. inside out. Just gotta keep working it nice and easy. Take your time. Unlike what I'm doing. Just keep working your edges out here. Go to the other side. Again, just keep working the edges out, or the corners. Hope I got you in the screen. I know I had this zoomed in a little bit. Okay. There it is. Okay. We finished sewing it, and you'll see that up the side here, got a nice little stitch here. Right there's the bottom. Now I can still work that pucker out just a little bit too. As you can see, I've got the little dip here. Here's the other side. Just in case you'd like to see the inside, here's the inside. It looks like there's a little leather mark there. But anyways, all the way down. Well, let's see if we can get a... Oh, that's not working as well as I thought. There you go. There's the other side. You can see where the stitch goes horizontal down there in the bottom and then comes up the side. I ended up putting an additional stitch. I stitched it twice down both sides for just a little bit of the strength. And then I had trimmed some of this off right up close to the stitches. Alright, at this point, what I'd like to do now is to add some binding, or what I call binding, or trim. Let me get a piece here. I had took an old piece of, like a scrap piece of the same bag, and what's up here on top, this is hair on hide. It's a cow hide with a hair on it, and I've got a double stitch on that. Now I think coming around and putting all the way around on the top of this, one, it would actually stiffen it. It makes it a lot more stiff. But as you can see, well, that's not a very good picture of it there. I should have folded it a lot better. There you go, see. And then the inside will have the stitching, and then the outside, and it'll give it some, so it's not quite as floppy out here. And then whenever I get back, I've got some of the veg tan laid out. We'll cut some of the straps for the handles. I've got the hair on hide, which is a cow hide. This is the color I've got. It's kind of got some different colors. It gets light and dark. I think that'd look really nice across the top of the bag. One other thing I wanted to remind you, it was kind of my boo-boo. Before you sew this, before you put the whole bag together, and you have just the leather all laid out, don't forget to make your marks on the leather for your handles. I got ahead of myself. I must apologize. But for you that might do this bag and create yourself a pattern like that, there's things like that that you need to make sure that you do. Yes, make sure that you mark where the handles are while it's laying down. After I just cut the video, and I'd realized that, you know, I was getting ready to shoot for the, you know, making of the handles and things of that sort, and I thought, oh my, I didn't do the marking. But anyways, I was able and managed to turn around and put the marks back up here. That's where I'll put it. But this will be the conclusion of this second part of how to make a simple tote bag. I hope you stay tuned for the next video. If you've liked this video, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, comment, and hope to see you then.